Hello and welcome back to another video. I am Angst, but you can call me Katie. For this Taboo Tuesday, I'd like to discuss with you all the recent Berkeley Riot and the left and Milo Yiannopoulos. We saw political violence in response to mainstream opinions this past Wednesday on the University of California at Berkeley campus when Milo Yiannopoulos came to visit and prepared to give a speech. Many protesters, some partially masked, armed with bricks, fireworks, barricade pieces, and bats, took off with an assault on university and city police as well as primarily the building hosting the speech by conservative commentator Milo, forcing the event's cancellation by administrators roughly 2 hours beforehand. Protesters also set several fires, one near the campus bookstore. Additionally, they damaged the construction site of a new dorm. Even after police said that the event was canceled, protesters stayed behind. Some, in a remaining group, moved into downtown Berkeley and smashed windows at several local banks. It's unclear as to if the other businesses trashed, including storefronts and a Starbucks, were on campus or off. One representative for the school said, "I do not believe our students were involved in the vandalism and the violent behavior that occurred," alluding to that the masked protesters were fully to blame. Even those who did not personally commit violence did contribute to the mindset which allowed it, comparing Milo's comedic speaking tour to ethnic cleansing and genocide. People think that they personally haven't bloodied their own hands, but they all cheered when the violence erupted. In some news footage, you can even see the words "Kill Trump, kill fascists" spray-painted across the campus. Protesters also yelled, "No Milo, no Trump, no fascist USA." Protesters attacked people with opposing views. One woman, as you can see here, was pepper-sprayed while being interviewed. Another man was beaten. Both are able to be seen in video as well as photo evidence across the internet. I'd like to point out the irony here. Not only was Milo invited to speak by the school, who claims to be fine with freedom of speech, Milo is a conservative and absolutely for freedom of speech. The protesters, primarily left-leaning, also appreciate freedom of speech, but their reason for doing this was to silence Milo. Milo is also being painted as divisive. The reality is, rioting is divisive. Refusing to allow freedom of speech from an opposing side or view is divisive. I've said this a few times, once on my Twitter as my pinned tweet. You cannot play the victim when you've got bullet casings falling from your mouth. You don't get to pretend that you're completely innocent when you are the problem. In an interview shortly after the riot, Milo stated, "That is the price you pay for being a libertarian or a conservative on American college campuses. The establishment, the media, academic, and entertainment establishment, has made certain sorts of political opinion, respectable, reasonable mainstream opinion, impossible to express in public." He also commented, "If you have slightly conservative or even libertarian points of view, especially if you are persuasive and charismatic and funny and effective, you'll get called the most appalling things. And it's a way of legitimizing, in some cases, as happened last night, violent responses." After the majority of the news blowing up on the riots, President Trump very loosely threatened to pull the government funding, which is between a quarter and half of the money this campus receives per year. And just a side note for you, California, you would lose all of that funding if your little Cal-exit tantrum manages to succeed. Frankly, I don't think we need to be threatening the school like they're a bunch of children. They are adults. They do know better, or at least they should. Go down there, tell them to knock it off. Tell them to stop their petty tantrums and their riots and their little fires. They're a public university. They are bound to the U.S. Constitution, meaning they cannot deny freedom of speech. College also isn't a safe space. It's about challenging yourself, learning and understanding other views, as well as becoming part of the real world. High school doesn't prepare you for the harsh reality of life. You don't get to tap out and hide in a safe space when you're working for a Fortune 300 company, performing a surgery, or under a brutal deadline with a thankless boss. I highly doubt these student protesters can define Nazi and fascist without using their phone in hand. Yet they throw around the words whenever someone they don't agree with opens their mouth. If they had any idea what these words meant, they wouldn't be using them so freely, especially in relation to Milo, a Jewish gay conservative. Constantly redefining violence is how they cause themselves to freak the fuck out. Inciting violence doesn't extend across opposing Islam, disagreeing with feminism, or opposing the Black Lives Matter movement. The protesters had zero intellectual ground to stand on, reducing themselves to acts of senseless violence when they ran out of shit to say. If you were familiar with Nazism, or fascism, and authoritarianism, of which is at the expense of personal freedoms, you wouldn't be throwing these words around. And in fact, I'd bargain you wouldn't be as likely to use them frequently and incorrectly, or be quite as liberal. The concern with this isn't that it was over Milo, or that it was at Berkeley, or even that this was extreme leftists and a conservative. The concern is that this type of reaction occurred at all. We even see celebrities such as Sarah Silverman encouraging it, as well as Deborah Messing. In addition, Deborah also tried to pin the blame on right-wing supporters, and just a couple days later she had the audacity to post a link about how to have better political conversations, while Deborah, the first part is you stop talking and you start listening. You're an echo chamber. Deborah also commented later that she did not support the violence. She only approved that people were using their voices, in this case, to oppose an alt-right speaker. The two are now among several celebrities being referred to as limousine liberals, with their tweeting and commenting from the comfort of their own homes and security-protected spaces. CNN, after the fact, referred to Milo as a Nazi and a white supremacist, as they've been known to do, basically justifying the actions that happened that night. You absolutely have the right to protest. However, you do not have the right to riot. Period. End of discussion. Unfortunately, it seems that the left is absolutely terrified of free speech and will do literally anything to shut it down, at least when it doesn't fall in line with their agenda. I say this during or after nearly every protest turned riot, which is unfortunately a lot of them. If you are vandalizing your own city, campus, homes, community, businesses, storefronts, banks, public property, as well as harming other people and police officers, you are not part of a protest, you are part of a riot, and you are the problem. Have some respect for your school campuses, your cities, businesses, and communities, and your fellow man. Enough with being toddlers throwing temper tantrums. Act like the adults that you so claim to be, and while you're at it, take a refresher course on everyone's rights as an American. You so clearly do not comprehend freedom of speech. That's going to be it for this video. Like, comment, and share as you please, and I will hopefully see you in the next video, which will be less awful than this.